Hi all, welcome to the audio lessons by English Voice, where you can learn anything and everything about English literature and theory. In the previous class, we discussed about structuralism and its key figures. Today, we are going to see structural linguistics and its application in literature. Saussure, in his 1915 work, A Course in General Linguistics, proposed that language was a system in which various components existed in relation to each other. From here took birth a wide range of ideas relating to structuralism and language. There are two approaches to study language in linguistics: synchronic study and diachronic study. We have seen them in the previous class. Now let's see them in detail. In synchronic study of language, we consider language at a moment in time without taking its history into account. It aims at describing language at a specific point of time, usually the present. By contrast, in diachronic study, we approach a language by considering the development and evolution of it through history. Saussure emphasized the primacy of synchronic analysis of language to understand the functioning better. Saussure's contribution can also be traced in the field of semiotics, which means the science of signs. He introduced two important methods in semiotic analysis. The first one was syntagmatic analysis, and second one was paradigmatic analysis. Syntagmatic analysis is analysis of syntax of surface structure. Means that one element selects the other element either to precede it or to follow it. In syntagmatic analysis, the surface structure remains the same and the rules cannot be altered, where words go in a horizontal order. Consider the example, the cat played. Here, the definite article the selects a noun always after it and never a verb. That means we can never write the played cat. It always follows the subject-verb order. Remember that in syntagmatic analysis, the rules are more rigid and we are not supposed to alter it at all. While in paradigmatic analysis, there is analysis of paradigms embedded in the text rather than the surface structure. In a paradigmatic structure, one word can be substituted by another word or a phoneme can be replaced by another to form a new word. Consider the alphabets as a paradigm from which the syntax of words are formed. In a word like bit, we can replace the phoneme b with k, l, s, etc. to form words like kit, lit, sit respectively. Here, the rules are flexible and we can form a number of words. And here, the words go in a vertical order. Moving on to a second contribution to semiotics, which was the idea of sign. Let's see what it is. A sign is a foundation of structural linguistics. A sign is a foundation of structural linguistics, and we can further differentiate the sign into two components, the signified and signifier. The signified is an idea or concept, and signifier is a linguistic element or the word which denotes this idea or concept. Sign is therefore a combination of signifier and signified, and the relation between a signifier and signified is arbitrary. That is, there is no relationship between the word and its meaning. Let us consider an example of a dog. The animal dog doesn't know that its species name is dog. It's the human beings who gave the name dog. The animal dog has nothing to do with the name dog. His fourth idea was to divide language into two main components, lang and parole. Lang is a set of rules by which we combine words into sentences, and these rules are to be followed by its users. Parole is the everyday speech where we use words in particular context. Simply speaking, it is the individual utterances. Lang is the system and parole is the use of the system. Now let's see how structuralism is applied in literature. we can see that structuralist analysis was mainly done on prose narratives in larger context, such as analyzing the conventions of a particular literary genre. For example, in the case of an epic, there are certain conventions that makes an epic. Like media res, which means an epic always begin in the midst of things. The hero should be a figure of great importance. He should possess supernatural or divine traits, etc. They analyzed the network of intertextual connections like intertextuality, looking for references from other works, etc. They also searched for an underlying universal narrative structure, for example, how in folk tales it have a cyclic nature, like how every folk tales had supernatural elements, sense of justice, happy endings, and fundamental wisdom, etc. etc. Structuralists also looked for recurrent patterns or motifs. Like in a fairy tale, there are ferocious beasts, supernatural helpers like fairies, fairy godmothers, and so on. Secondly, they interpreted literature in terms of a range of underlying parallels within the structure of language. For example, the analogy of morpheme and mythi, where mytheme is the smallest unit of narrative sense from which myths are thought to be constructed, which is usually a relationship between a character, an event, and a theme from which the myth is to be developed, while morpheme is the smallest unit of grammatical sense. Thirdly, they applied the concept of systematic patterning and structuring in the whole field of Western culture, treating everything as a system of sign, ranging from Greek myths to current fashion in clothes. That's it for today. In the coming class, we will come with a new topic. For more details and detailed notes, write to content.englishvoice@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to me. Bye.